Hello and welcome to another live stream for the Hoylet Computer Club. We're going to be continuing on with our Java app engine, and let's jump on in. Okay. So up until now, we've kind of got this sort of engine that runs and does its thing. We can give it a quick run and take a look at it. At the moment, we've got it rendering a texture that's following the mouse. We've also got rendering texture that can be moved via the arrow keys as well. So that's working still. So there's a few things I'd like to add to this. The idea is we've kind of added these sprites in here and this sprite sheet, the idea of this texture stuff and everything. And we've added like a renderable and updatable. Now, let's take a look at this renderable and see if we can kind of elaborate on it. Because at the moment it just has this render, which is fine. But maybe we want like a get width, get height, get pixels and things like that to actually allow it to have some getters in there. So I think we'll make some of these things available. Let's say public. Actually, let's zoom in a little bit first. So public int get width. We'll want to establish a public int get height. And also a get pixels. That's going to be a public int array get pixels. This way we've got access to all those different sort of aspects of the thing. And then we've got a render method as well. I think I'll change that into a smaller alpha render. It's not super important, but just thought I would. Right, so what's this saying here? Do not like the word iRenderable. Yeah, it's just typo because it's trying to read it as a word. That's fine. So that'd be that interface. Let's think about the updates. Do we still? Well, I think that'll stay the same basically. Now that we've got this renderable thing, we want to be able to kind of render it. So we want to be able to render renderables. Now at the moment we've got a render texture method inside of our screen class. So we want to have a slightly more decoupled sort of thing. So what we're going to do is go into our screen class and you see where we've got this render texture. That's fine. That can currently render textures. Let's start making just a render method. So it's going to be public. It's going to not return anything specific. And let's say render. It's going to take in a X and a Y, but it's also going to take in a renderable. So what iRenderable there, an interface. Renderable. Yeah. So we've got this. So we're going to do similar to what we did literally with the, in fact, I'm saying similar. I think we're going to do exactly the same, I think. So what I'm going to do is I could have just copied the texture thing, to be honest. Yeah, I think we will. Let's take this, copy that, paste it in here, change the word texture to renderable. In all occurrences. Basically, it's just making it sort of less tightly coupled. So it's decoupling the sort of functionality. So we've now got our render method done. Yeah. Okay, so we save that. We're now able to render renderables as such. Right, so now we've got that done, let's make a renderable. So we've already got this sprite here. So let's say that we take our sprite and we go, okay, well, now I want it to implement renderable. Yeah, implement it. It means it needs to have certain things in there. So let's have a look. Implement methods. There we go. So for this, we've got our get width, which is just going to return some stuff. So we want, as well as the texture, we'll want a, well, actually, we don't really need a texture directly like this, since we're taking in a texture. What we're going to do is we're going to take the pixels from a texture instead. Let's say private int width and private int height, and then we'll say private int array pixels. Then instead of saying this texture here, let's extract some data from the texture. So let's say that I want my width to be equal to the texture dot get width. Might zoom this in a little bit. Same sort of concept for height. And now the pixels, with texture dot get pixels, there we go. So we don't actually have to store directly a texture as such. We can have this concept of the parts of it. Then get width can just literally return width. Get height respectively returns height. And then get pixels will return, again, pixels. And to render this, we literally take the screen that has been passed, run.render, pass it in the X and Y coordinates, and also pass it in this object. So for this one, let's look. Got width and height. How are we going to get the X? Oh, actually, let's pass in the X and Y as well. Oh, wait, we can tell it where we want to render it. Okay. So now we've got the ability to render. This is not going to directly override that one unless I literally put this type of render into the thing. So let's copy that. Hold on, actually, that should be fine. Oh, I'm not overriding anything because there is. Yeah, I don't think that's quite override then, is it? Do I want the renderable to have X and Y? Because in reality, I suppose realistically it should do, shouldn't it? Yeah, I'm gonna change the render inside the renderable to have X and Y as well. So that way it can be an override. Where are we? Renderable. So that's going to be public void. So now I can go off and actually tell it that that is an actual override to it. There we go. Nice and clean, fairly straightforward. So now that we've got the screen that can render renderable, we have a sprite that is a renderable, then in essence, we can literally start doing stuff, I suppose, really. Let's think about this. So in reality, I think, can we just change our main code a little bit to allow for a sprite instead of a texture, even though we will be using a texture still in the sprite as such, or at least we're passing the sprite a texture. So if I go off to our main, let's see if we can refactor this a little bit, because we've got this texture here. So instead of that, what we could do is not do a texture, but do a sprite. Yeah, that'll be a private sprite. Now what we can do is, instead of instantiating the texture this way, let's just say that the sprite equals a new sprite, passing it the texture. Now, anywhere we've got texture, I want to do sprites. Where are we? Update. Look there. That's fine. Texture changes to sprite, and texture changes to sprite. But we don't want to render texture, so that doesn't actually happen. I've just noticed. So we can't just do that. We can comment these out, or rather make a copy of them. And move that out the way there. So this render just takes an X, Y, and a screen. Now, do we have any form of a getter for the screen, or do we just have the screen itself? Or do we have the screen anywhere? But where are we going to do this? We need some form of ability to get a screen, don't we? Trying to think. Did I make a get screen in the? Let's have a look at our core. Did I actually make a get screen at any given time? Runnable, blah, blah. Start, create display, set input, run, show, render texture. So we don't really have a get screen at this point. So that's one thing that we could kind of do with getting. So what we can do is inside here, we'll just do an actual get screen, since I believe we keep a hold of the screen. Yeah, we've got access to the screen here. So we can just make a getter for it. So for this one, we'll just do a protected get screen and just return the screen. That way we've got access to screen. So what's that mind about? Is that just like, there we go. So now that we've got that, we should be able to go into the main and get the screen. So we can do like, this could be like a sprite dot render, taking in the X, the Y, and also a get screen. And rinse and repeat the same. Sprite dot render, get rid of the texture, X and Y, and a get screen. So now we've kind of refactored it from having a texture as such to having this conceptual sprite that can render itself as such. It runs the render, which calls the render inside screen, passing itself in there. So it's kind of one of those. It just separates our concerns in this way. So now that we've changed that, let's see if it still works. Looks good. Still working the same for that part. Keyboard ones still working perfectly fine. Okay, so that's all good. We've refactored it to have an actual sprite, a working sprite at this point. Now, there's plenty of other additions we can make for this, but we'll do those in a few other sections rather than just jumping straight into doing the whole lot of the entire thing in one go. So, as always, it's been awesome. I'll see you in the next one.